We're now joined by Husker Online Sean Callahan. Sean, we know Chief Porters is in the portal. Do you expect anything else today from Nebraska in the transfer portal window at all?
Well, the window actually closed for regular guys yesterday. Today, graduates could go in, and that's the last of it. But you technically have up to 48 hours to process a player. So, you never say never, but 2 walk-ons went in yesterday. Sip, I don't know if you saw this one, but Jack Wokey, the quarterback, went in, and then Corver Dema went in as well.
I don't recognize the second name.
His mom was a Megan Corver, a former volleyball player, Gretna kid.
Oh, yeah.
They came in as a walk-on. So two walk-ons yesterday. But, yeah, that's really the story, how few of players have gone in post-spring. And we've talked about this before. I mean, I just think the NIL setup and structure where they've done a pretty good job of taking care of the entire roster. I think NIL across the board for a lot of these major schools has done a really good job of retaining and kind of keeping some of these guys in place.
Jack Walkie went in. What time was that?
Nakos messaged me at 5 o'clock yesterday, so it was about 5 o'clock yesterday.
That got by me. What do you think of that? Is that a factor in your life?
He wasn't on the 110 last year,
right?
So if we're just spitting facts here, he wasn't even in training camp. He was they didn't have a lot of quarterbacks on the roster. Luke Longville was on the 110, and he's still on the team. So, and they're bringing in more walk-ons.
Do we know where Chief Borders will go?
Somebody mentioned the West Coast. I mean, like a place like UCLA or somewhere west. He really wants to go to a bigger city. He wants to be involved in social media and be an influencer type person for his career. And that was kind of one of the things. He graduates in May, and he's looking to go somewhere. MJ Sherman is at that spot. Prince Yellen is at that spot. Vincent Shavers can play in that area. So he wasn't a starter. He was not going to be the guy. I mean, Rule obviously praised him during spring, but MJ was the guy that they had been resting and not playing in the scrimmages. And then Princewell, how high they are on him. So he would have had a role on this team. But yeah, I think he wanted to move on for his last year and look somewhere else.
Regarding the spring game, joined by Sean Callahan, Dylan Raiola was obviously the buzz, the hype going in, and he played very well by most standards. What were your thoughts, Sean, his performance, and were you surprised at how good he looked out there?
Well, we know the talent that he has and the ability that he has, but rarely does a guy come in on his first time on that stage and not only live up to it, play arguably better than what you thought. And look, he wasn't seeing the top defense. He wasn't being hit. It was set up for success for those quarterbacks, but it's still easier said than done. The throws he made, I don't care, what he was up against. Those weren't easy throws, and he was making big time throws in that stadium. And you talk about spring games around the country. I mean, you can argue it was one of the bigger stories nationally, just the way he played. The people are still talking. He was on the stage at Zach Bryant last night. Dylan got brought up on the stage and was singing with Zach Bryant. So he has caught the attention of a lot of people nationally, not only here around the state. And I think there's going to be a lot of buzz now going into this off season.
How important is he in recruiting, Sean? I see a headline on our website. He's playing a huge role with recruiting. What's that picture look like?
Well, just about every major guy that comes on campus, he's either the host or like the co-host of their visit. And he wants that. He takes that on to be involved in the recruiting because he came here to win. And, he wants to help Nebraska get the best players possible. So when you have somebody that's ranked as high as he is, played like he did in the spring game, kids know who he is, and he knows that, and he wants to be impactful and have a role with recruiting. I mean, he's Nebraska's best recruiter. I mean, just having him involved and talking to these guys. That's why Nayor and Banks came here. When they saw Dylan Raiola throwing in a winter's throwing session, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're coming here." So just his arm and his abilities are arguably one of the best recruiting tools Nebraska has right now.
Can they get Dawson Merritt? He's an edge guy, linebacker from Kansas City who's down to Nebraska and Alabama.
Well, they've opened his eyes, there's no doubt. He came back for a second time in 14 days. His dad works for the Kansas City Chiefs, actually got permission to miss out on some of the draft stuff this weekend to be up here. So that's how important Nebraska is right now. And Merritt raved about the visit. And I know Alabama's worried. I mean, before Nebraska got involved, Alabama was looked to be the leader, but you get him here twice in 14 days. There's something cooking there, and now Nebraska's got to close on this. And, now it's in-home. It's kind of like in-home visit season in the spring. Coaches can meet and visit with these people on campus. You get one opportunity to visit each prospect. It's new rules that went into effect this year. You saw 6 coaches go to Lincoln Southwest on Monday to visit Jackson Carpenter. It'll be interesting to see Nebraska's approach with Dawson Merritt here. How many coaches they send down to Kansas City to meet with him and hang out with him. Now, Matt Rule can't go on the road, but you better believe that entire defensive staff is probably going to be down there sooner rather than later, because that will be a big opportunity to meet with him and his family during this kind of final moments of his recruiting process.
There were a lot of other visitors, Sean, at the spring game. In terms of what you've heard from recruiting from that, what's been the response from recruits post-spring game?
Yeah, I think TJ Lateef is the most intriguing one, the quarterback, because quarterbacks have the quickest timeline as far as their decisions. And TJ has not done one interview, so he's being very quiet about things leaving Lincoln. But you have to think Nebraska's in a good spot with him. But we'll see with him. And the other guys, for the most part, on their merit, it's a long game. This was their first official visit of the process, and they're gonna take visits through the summer. In most cases, 7 of 8 officials, Jake, were 4-stars, and usually 4-star guys don't commit to you right away on the first visit. So it will take. I mean, this process will go into June for a lot of these guys that were here, and Nebraska knew that. And this is kind of the long game process, and they might get some of these guys back on campus again if it works out.
Quickly, Sean, the team is moving from the east sideline to the west sideline, as announced in an email to the ticket holders last night. What's the significance of this?
Well, it's been something that's been talked about for a while, and you go back to 2020. Scott Frost moved the team to the west sideline because of that, and there's a couple of reasons. The sun, being on you on those warm September games. In the Michigan game is a great example of that. Even Jim Harbaugh called Trev Alberts and told him, he's like, man, why do you guys go on that sideline? It was 40 degrees cooler on our side than your side that day. It was almost 100 degrees in September in the stadium. But the other thing is the signaling in the press box. You can get a more direct view of the signals when you're looking across and able to see Nebraska's coaches. And that was something I know has been talked about for a while. So my question is the depth of the sideline. The west sideline is significantly smaller than the east. That's why Nebraska is on the east. So will they reline the field?
No. They'll just move the fence back, Sean. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Me and you could do it. We could probably have it done by 5 today. You just got to move the fences back.
Call Torski.
Yeah. But, Sean, seriously, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, and those fences have so much room. I mean, they drive like full garbage trucks on there after games. So
they do.
No, they do. I mean, it's like when they clean up the stadium. I mean, so it's a matter of probably part of it. It'll be interesting to see how they put that all together. But the depth of the west sideline, and I've had friends that coached in the state championship game, and they said that, man, that west sideline is small compared to the east. It's a huge difference. But Rule. I mean, if Rule wants something done, it's going to get done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean, thanks for the time. We'll chat with you again next week. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.